So it has come down to this, the last race of the 2013 FF1M Championship, and it comes to you from the Interlagos circuit at São Paulo, Brazil. The big story coming into this race is that the championship took a massive swing at the United States Grand Prix, where Kimi Raikkonen won and Romain Grosjean didn't even finish, having suffered a loose wheel very early on in the race. And the result is that Kimi Raikkonen now holds a 6-point lead over his big championship rival, but it's not over yet. Grosjean has 5 wins, Raikkonen has 4. If Grosjean wins and Raikkonen finishes third, then Grosjean will be champion on the virtue of having 6 wins compared to Raikkonen's 4. So Kimi must finish second to guarantee him his first FF1M championship. It could be Grosjean's first championship as well. We'll need to find out after 70 laps of this interesting Interlagos circuit. Here is a map of it, contains the big overtaking opportunity going into the Senna S, and then the Curva do Sol along left before another back straight into another big overtaking opportunity, the Descida de Largo. Guy Racing's Guillaume Kramer will give you the correct pronunciations. But it's got an interesting middle sector as well, with the fast Ferradura complex. And we're just having a look at some racing, one of the support categories. And one of them using to the curbs to try and overtake his rival. As has been the case for most of the season, Kimi Raikkonen takes pole position. That is a lot of pole positions in one season. Pretty clear that Gojira have the advantage in qualifying. So he's off to the best possible start, less so for Romain Grosjean, who qualifies way down in 8th, probably his worst qualifying of the season. He's obviously hoping that Tornado's race pace will shine through. Joining Raikkonen on the front row is Robert Kubica for the much improved Andrew F1, and Nico Hülkenberg starts 3rd. I would say Kubica was very unfortunate to have that engine failure in Texas, as he was well on track for a podium finish. Once again, Willows and FJR's not showing well in qualifying. Looks as if their focus is for the 2014 season. They'll be hoping for much better luck. They've got works engines, and it is more than likely that both teams have abandoned development of their 2013 car, so they can concentrate on 2014. So it'll be interesting to see how they go next season. And the only Brazilian on the grid, Bruno Senna, qualifies down in last. He's hoping for a bunch of retirements in order to finish in the points in what could be his last ever FF1M race. So 5 lights go out very quickly, and it was a good start from Robert Kubica from second on the grid as he's alongside Raikkonen going into the first corner, and Raikkonen hanging on round the outside though at the Senna S, and he holds on to the lead, but Robert Kubica's trying to go around the outside at the second corner. What a move! So it's Robert Kubica who leads from Raikkonen. Hülkenberg maintains 3rd, Vettel in 4th position, and Hülkenberg having a look at Raikkonen going into Descida de Largo, but Vettel goes right round the outside of him, catches the Mitchell driver napping, and rounding off the field it was Kamui Kobayashi. So Senna's had quite a good start, up a couple of positions. For the moment it is Kubica who leads, but we've seen Renault's reliability fall to pieces during the second half of the season. Kubica's had a few engine failures, Hülkenberg has had way more, most notably at Hockenheim, one of the most demanding of all the engine circuits. And Romain Grosjean made up 1 position off the start. He is in 7th position, having jumped button, and here he is. He's going to try and make a move on Perez, going up the hill out of Junção corner, through Subida dos boxes, and then I think it's Aquabancadas, but my Portuguese is not up to scratch. End of lap 1, Grosjean having a look at Perez up the inside into the Senna S, and he has got it. Ayrton Senna won season 7 of the FF1M Championship back when it was the Masters era, multiple race winner as well. So he's a big name in Brazil, as is the... Oh, we've got a move from Robin Freins up the inside of Verne, and Alguersuari battling with Bottas as well. Of course, the biggest name in Brazil is the Guy Racing run Gojira. run by very much a Brazilian man himself. And Kubica is the fastest driver out on the circuit at the moment, a 1:11, so that's pretty much eclipsed Kimi Raikkonen's fastest lap from last season, back when Raikkonen drove for FJR, and when FJR actually were competitive. So there is Kimi going down the back straight. He has got Vettel for company, and Jenson Button is trying to make a move on Perez going into the Desquida de Largo, and he's got him. 7th position for the future FJR driver for next season, where he'll be partnered by Kevin Magnussen, FF1M front runner, and at this moment, Tornado's test driver. It'll be interesting to see how those two get on next season with Works Judd engines. Only team to be running Judd engines next season. Will that hinder development? Who knows? We'll find out. Round Mergulho, that's the dive, and then the junction corner. Junsão in Portuguese. And up the hill comes Button. There is Grosjean, who got past Button on the previous... No, he didn't. He got past Perez a couple of laps ago. Now he is trying to close the gap to him, Alonso, a 10th or so quicker on that lap. And he'll get a bit of a slipstream if he stays close behind the Exolite, which has been the 3rd quickest car all season in the very capable hands of Alonso and Button. Both drivers finished 2nd and 4th last time out, so it was a very good race for them. Let's hope they'll maintain their form for next season, when they will have Raikkonen and Perez, the current Gojira lineup, and they'll move to next season's Exolite. Still having a look at Grosjean, he's definitely closing in on Alonso, who himself has got Nico Hülkenberg in front of him. So there could be a 3-way battle developing, because I suspect the Mitchell, either the 5th or 6th quickest car at the moment, probably very close with Andrew F1. I would have said the Shake and Bake was the 4th quickest car of the season, but Vettel has outdriven the Shake and Bake to places where it probably shouldn't really have belonged. And as a result, he's got the majority of the team's points, 77. Maldonado has just 5. So I think Vettel's a good candidate for driver of the season. But who will be the driver to win the 2013 championship? Still got 66 laps to go, and at the moment it favours Raikkonen. If Raikkonen... just going through some of the permutations, if Raikkonen for some reason suffers an engine problem or suspension problem or any form of mechanical issue, or driver error for that matter, then Grosjean would need a 3rd position to overhaul the flying Finn. Here he is. Is that Verne closing up to the back of Perez? It is indeed. And he's got a good slipstream. Let's see if he can use it. Customer Ferrari versus Works Ferrari. There'll be none of those names next season with this brand new engine formula. Well, they'll be running ICEs, control electronics, and all sorts of other gizmos, and that will determine power, reliability, and they get to use a higher engine mode during qualifying. That's compulsory. They can choose to run it in the races, but it would increase unreliability by a lot of %. Pastor Maldonado making a move on Lewis Hamilton for 14th position, so looks like FJRs are nowhere on this Interlagos circuit, and Maldonado not doing too badly in passing Lewis Hamilton. Outgoing world champion is Lewis Hamilton, having won it for Tornado the previous season. He's had a shocking one with FJR. Unreliability, mistakes, wrong tyre choices, contact with other drivers when trying to make up for those mistakes, and bad pit stops and bad tyre choices, and even more mistakes. And Kubica's in the pits, I believe, because... yes, he is. Into the pits comes Robert Kubica. We're expecting 3 stops all round. He's taking on 20 extra laps of fuel. He's one of the first ones to blink as well, so it'll be interesting to see how he goes on new tyres. So he's trying to use this to try and extend his lead before others make their pit stops. Maldonado comes into the pits as well, as does Lewis Hamilton. I was about to say that Maldonado was on a lighter fuel load, but it turns out exactly the same amount of fuel as the bumbling FJR. So Kubica rejoins behind Bottas. Goodness knows where that is in terms of positions. It's Frines, Alguersuari, Bottas. And here's Nico Hülkenberg going to make a pit stop. And navigating the Armco barriers, hitting the speed limit of 81 kilometers an hour. And a big wide camera angle so we can see some of the guys on the right hand side. Into his pit box, he takes on 19 laps of fuel. So a fraction less than Kubica, and 7.8 seconds. That's slightly slower than what it was that Kubica had. Frines and Bottas into the pits. And the camera's trying to track Hülkenberg for some reason. We need a different shot. Still tracking him. There he is, on board with the German, who will remain with the Mitchell team for next season. There's Bottas versus Maldonado. There's contact between the two. Bottas off the track, spinning in the gravel trap, and that was a bit clumsy from both. So here's Maldonado. Bottas moves over on him on the braking zone, but Maldonado hung on to that one. Well done. So Bottas moved over in the braking zone, and he got his just desserts. Into the pits comes Grosjean and one of the Exolites. Grosjean, the first of the two to enter his pit box, is Jenson Button, who is the Exolite driver making his pit stop. 7.8 seconds, so again not as quick as we thought. 22 laps of fuel, so not as much fuel as we thought as well. And in fact, Bottas is out of the race, so that collision with Maldonado has ended up with him stuck in the gravel trap and out of the car. So that's a rather ignominious end for the Finn, who won in Hungary. And next season Bottas will be... There's some action going on under yellow flags. Hülkenberg versus Di Resta. I wouldn't recommend that under yellow flags when there's marshals out on track. Kimi Raikkonen and Sebastian Vettel come into the pits. So where will they rejoin in relation to Kubica, Hülkenberg, et al.? Into his box comes Raikkonen. How quick will this stop be? Gojira's pit stops have been quite good. Alonso into the pits as well, as is Jean-Eric Vergne. So first pit stops are very much in force. So out of the pits comes Raikkonen, as Alguersuari comes into the pits. There's Kubica, who is in second, somewhere behind Sergio Perez, who has yet to stop. Raikkonen holds on to second, Vettel holds on to, well, net second and then net third. Grosjean has leapt up the order, so he's got ahead of Hülkenberg during the first pit stop sequences, and Alonso as well. So the earlier stop from Grosjean working well, as Sergio Perez comes into the pits. Meanwhile, Alonso versus Hülkenberg going into the Senna S, and Alonso takes 5th position, and that is correct, because Perez has made his pit stop and has rejoined a little bit down the order. So Kimi Raikkonen closing up a little bit on the final sector to Kubica. That was over a 10th that he took out of him then. So Kimi needs to be a little bit careful, because Grosjean is in a position to capitalise should there be a mechanical problem. And Kubica was slightly quicker in the first sector on this particular lap. And there's Vettel quite close behind as well. So it's quite a close run thing at the moment, and everyone has still got to make 2 more pit stops. So we've got an interesting race on our hands and an interesting championship battle. Coming out of Bico de Bato, that's the Duck's Beak, and Kimi Raikkonen taking 2/10 out of Kubica in the middle sector as they exit the final proper corner onto the big uphill rise through a series of left-hand kinks. past the extremely dangerous pit entrance, and to start lap 24. The gap is 1.3 seconds, as we go on board with Paul di Resta, who is in 17th position, and he is chasing what looks like a horizon on the main straight. The horizon thinking of defending, and that's scared di Resta into not making a move. As they exit the Senna S, rounding the curve de Sol, onto the Retta Aposta. That's the back straight, and up the inside comes di Resta. I think it's Adrian Suttle that he's overtaken, but it could well be Sam Bird. It's quite difficult to tell those two helmets apart. And Raikkonen is definitely closing in on Kubica. The gap is just 0.6 of a second as these two start lap 27. Into turn 4, Descida de Lago. Raikkonen on slightly fresher tyres. He's got 14 laps of fuel on at the moment, and they came in with 5 laps of fuel still left in the tank, so I'd expect Raikkonen in about 9 laps time, as Kubica is approaching a Pedersen to lap. Is that Senna or is it Kobayashi? This could help Raikkonen. He's getting a bit closer. He can sense the danger from the back marker as they go into the Junsao corner. And he's got a very good run. I think this will be an opportunity going into the Senna S on the next lap. In fact, you don't even need to wait until the Senna S. That is tight as they go down the pit straight. And it is Bruno Senna who is in the way, getting in the way of Kubica badly, as Kimi Raikkonen up the inside of the pair of them. He's got the lead. And that really cost Kubica badly. And now he has got Sebastian Vettel all over his gearbox. Now is Vettel going to do something about it going into the skid login? He lifted off the throttle then. What was that about? Perhaps he wants a fairer fight. Who knows? Vettel will remain with, and not the inside there. We've seen that in the previous incarnation of FF1M when it ran on different software, but not on this one. Jensen Button, that's tight going into Descida de Lago. He's got Hulkenberg side by side as they approach the Ferradura. Not quite, but Button has got it. Hulkenberg choosing not to fight that one back. So now it's Sebastian Vettel's turn to look at making a move on Robert Kubica as they go into the next lap. Kubica leaving the door open. I think he's trying to play this one a bit more cagily. But Sebastian Vettel takes second position as they go through the Senna S. And look behind, there's Grosjean, who is closing in on these three. He's only 4.1 seconds. Took quite a bit of time out of Raikkonen on that lap, but I suspect that was because Raikkonen was making a move. There he is, possible championship winner, depending on what happens to Kimi Raikkonen. Grosjean doing everything he needs to so far, so he's doing well. Verne has made a move on Hulkenberg and he's got him. 7th position for the Tornado driver. And it's worth mentioning, of course, that Gojira and Tornado are locked in a bit of a vicious championship constructors battle. Only 4 points separate the two in the favour of Tornado, but if it stays like this, what's Raikkonen on? 12, Grosjean 5, Verne 2, Perez 1, 7 and 13. That would go in the way of Gojira by 2 points. But things could change, and changing they are, as Romain Grosjean is having a look at Kubica. He's got him, 3rd position for the Frenchman. Half French, half Swiss, but he prefers to be French. Vettel coming up to lap the other Pedersen, I think that is, Kobayashi. As we have a look at Alonso now, challenging and closing in on Kubica for 4th position. This is lap 32, and it's a very close field so far. Only 13 seconds separate the top 8, so things could yet change due to the closeness of this race. On board with Alonso as he looks at Kubica, who has got another Pedersen in front of him. This one could be Kobayashi. And Kubica hanging on to the back of Grosjean. I suspect Grosjean has got the quicker car, and Grosjean might be able to catch up to Vettel in second position. And I think Alonso has got a good run on Kubica coming out of Junsao. Up the inside into there. Let's get back into the slipstream and trying to split the Pedersen, but that's worked out in the favour of Kubica. I think Alonso got a little bit scared and had to back off of that. Alonso, who will rejoin Willows next season to partner Nico Rosberg. That should be an interesting lineup. Let's hope Willows have got the car to match their talent. Two former FF1M champions. In fact, Alonso won in 2011 and 2010. Rosberg won in 2006. That was with FJR. So, back on to this battle between Kubica and Alonso. No chance of overtakes in this twisty middle sector. Meanwhile, Verne has gapped Perez a little bit. Between those two, it is 1.5 seconds. As we concentrate on the battle for fourth position. And it's worth noting that Alonso has won this race just the once, no, twice actually, and that was in the Masters era. Once for M Sport and the other for Equino Plus. As he is now at the inside of Kubica on the main straight. And surely this will be fourth position for the Excellite driver. Indeed it is, outbreaking the pole into the Senna S. Alonso up to fourth position. He could still make an impact on this race. The Excellite has been very quick. More so in the race than qualifying. There's been 6th and 7th in this qualifying session for the two Excelites. But they've definitely got the stronger race car than qualifying car. The opposite could be true of Gojira, although Kimi Raikkonen has been leading this race for ever since he took the lead from Kubica, but he has been quick in the races as well. So into the pit box comes the Flying Finn, and there's an Excellite coming into the pits as well, and which is Alonso, and it wasn't enough of a gap between Alonso and Raikkonen to delay the Gojira driver exiting the pits. So 6.2 seconds, and Raikkonen looking good. Bruno Senna into the pits for the Pedersen. Half distance, and we've only had one retirement, which was Bottas. So impressive reliability for everyone actually. No mechanical problems to report at the moment. Alonso rejoins in 8th position. And there's 6 drivers in front of Raikkonen who need to make their second pit stop. Here is one of them due into the pits this lap. It is Romain Grosjean in 2nd position. Vettel continues for another lap. So he's going to try and play the long game and maybe use new tyres to make an impact on this 3rd stint. Into his box comes the Tornado driver. And Jenson Button in the pits as well. And always being held up. That's by Perez. Oh, team tactics. Bit of inter-team rivalry going on there. Or it could just be bad luck. So exiting the pits comes Grosjean. Got to navigate this very long pit exit. Really interesting pit lane exit, this one. Pit lanes have always been the problem, and Alonso has jumped Grosjean, so Perez has done Alonso a massive favour. Ooh, now then. That's just made Grosjean's task more tricky. So Alonso looking at a potential podium position, depending on how Vettel, Kubica's and Hulkenberg's stops all go. Vettel has got Vandergarde in front of him as he comes into the pits for his second stop. Went a couple of laps longer than Raikkonen. Where will Vettel rejoin? Is he going to rejoin behind Alonso, I wonder? As Robert Kubica also comes into the pits, and Vettel being held up as well by the Andrew F1 of Kubica. Is that going to give Alonso second position, I wonder? As Nico Hulkenberg comes into the pits from what was 3rd position. Should rejoin somewhere in 7th, I reckon. worth mentioning that Guy Racing have had the most wins at their home circuit with 5. They had Nico Rosberg win last season. Vettel has just about held on to second position from Alonso. Alonso looking much closer. So here is Raikkonen looking to lap the FJR. And up the inside there. And the FJR just about seeing him in time. So Raikkonen taking a few risks in order to maintain his lead. Yes, Guy Racing have won 5 times. Their first win came in the 97 season with Damon Hill, then the season after with Ralf Schumacher, and then 2001 with Ralf Schumacher again, and then Robert Kubica in 2007, and last season with Nico Rosberg. That was when Guy Racing were known as Sean Connery Motors. Now they're Gojira, and we have got backmarkers aplenty. That's a Horizon, who has been lapped by Alonso and Grosjean. Just half a second covers these two, and Grosjean determined to try and get a position back. He'll be a bit annoyed by Perez's antics. The next team to have the most wins in Brazil is actually FJR. Their last win at this circuit came in 2006, where Michael Schumacher won in what was his final FF1M race. 4 seasons before, the 2002 season saw Nick Heidfeld take a win for them, and then 99 and 2000 saw back-to-back wins for Heinz-Harald Frentzen, one of which came in a very wet race, Frentzen doing 2 stops compared to most of the field's 1, and that's what helped him win the race. He was a good driver for me, was Frentzen. I quite liked having him in my team. Could have won the championship in 99, but not quite. 99, where MRD won the Drivers' Championship in their very first season. They had Jarno Trulli at the wheel. So that was an impressive effort from them. And Trulli missed that first race of the season as well. Interestingly enough. Back to the action now, as Alonso has got Grosjean challenging up the inside, going into Descida de Largo. Can he outbrake the Spaniard? Yes, he can. Grosjean back up to 3rd position. Next target, Sebastian Vettel once again. And the gap between Raikkonen and Vettel, 6.3 seconds. As we have a look at Verne versus Kubica for 6th position. What's the gap between Raikkonen and Vettel now? 5.8. Vettel is closing the gap to Raikkonen. No doubt helped by 2 laps younger tyres, as Kubica tries to get the inside of Verne going to the centre S. That's the smallest of gaps that Kubica has still gone for it anyway. What a move. Good move that from the Andrew F1 driver. And up to 6th position comes the Singapore Grand Prix race winner. And into the pits comes the Singapore Grand Prix race winner. And it's a 7-second stop. So I think he's one of the first to make his 3rd pit stop of the race. Out of the pits comes the Andrew F1. No drivers holding him up on this occasion. In fact, Kubica was doing the holding up on the previous round of stops on Vettel. As Jaime Alguersuari comes into the pits from 10th position. His teammate Hulkenberg in 8th. So Mitchell on for a point or 2, depending on how the rest of the top 8 go. Speaking of which, here comes Romain Grosjean. He's making a bit of an early 3rd stop. This could help out, depending on if Raikkonen and Vettel get into combat with each other. Vettel was only 1.8 seconds behind the Finn as they started this lap. So Vettel looking quite good to challenge for the win here. That would be a good end to the season in what has been a very determined season for the German driver. Taking that shake and bake to 2 wins. And they came in China and the Nürburgring. Here is Raikkonen, 1.8 seconds ahead. At this moment, Button and Alonso run in 3rd and 4th, but they haven't made their 2nd stops yet. The highest placed driver who has made his final stop is Grosjean. Should expect him to regain 3rd position but will his earlier tyre stop help? Into the pits comes Raikkonen, and Vettel also into the pits, so both are blinking. As irrelevantly is Lewis Hamilton and Paul di Resta. There's the FJR exiting the pits. So it's a pit stop battle between Raikkonen and Vettel. So part of the reason why Vettel was able to close on him, although he had 2 laps younger tyres, certainly helped his fuel load. And status quo resumed. Raikkonen ahead of Vettel as Jean-Eric Vergne comes into the pits for his final stop, as the camera tries to track Raikkonen as we go on board with him. 5th position, 2 Excelites will be leading the race at this moment. And Perez and Hulkenberg are the other 2. Vettel versus Grosjean, look at this, down into the Siga de Lago! Not quite for Grosjean. So Vettel just about holds on to 6th position, and on slightly younger tyres I should expect him to pull away, but how aggressive is Romain Grosjean wanting to be? Any form of contact and any form of retirement, and that's his championship gone immediately. More drivers making their final pit stops. Robin Freins, Nico Rosberg exiting the Ducks Beat corner, and is Vettel just starting to pull away from Grosjean ever so slightly? As Bruno Senna, still in 21st place, comes into the pits. So still, Bottas is the only retirement of the race. Button comes into the pits from 2nd position. Maldonado versus Freins. It's all kicking off here now as Hulkenberg comes into the pits. These 2 are side by side as they come into the Ferradura complex, and Maldonado gets the engine power. I think Freins must have lifted a bit. And the last of the drivers to make their final pit stop, Fernando Alonso, in he comes from the lead of the race. And look at that gaggle of cars squabbling away for whatever position they may be battling for. I think that was Freins and Maldonado. Excelites pit box on the other end of the pit lane. And the crew get to work on 4 new tyres. Last slug of fuel, and away he goes in 6.2 seconds. Another good stop. Where's this going to rejoin? Out of the long pit exit comes Alonso. 5th gear, 6th gear, top gear, back down to 6th, and then back up to 7th. He's rejoined. Oh, there's a Horizon trying to unlap himself, but it's 6th position for Alonso. How many seconds behind Button is he? Not that many, as it turns out, as Button lets Alonso through. Don't put too much of a fight because Alonso is on fresh tyres. Here's a Willows versus an FJR for 14th position. It's Ricciardo versus Hamilton. Hamilton down at 15th place and taking a bit of a strange line coming out of that corner. Kubica coming up to lap him. 4th place Kubica, and he needs to push, does Robert, because Alonso is not that far behind. In fact, there is Alonso. Looking at him right now. Right behind Kubica. This could be 4th position for the Spaniard. There's some power in that Renault though. But better on the brakes on his newer tyres is Alonso. Clipping the curbs slightly, but 4th position for the Spaniard. Out of the Curva de Sol comes the Exelite driver. As we switch to Kimi Raikkonen. As he starts his final lap of the race. Very much an experienced veteran of the FF1M world. Been with it since the very beginning, the Masters era. And then joined... trying to remember who he joined. I think it was MRD in the 2000 season. He was very quick. Didn't quite have the pace of his teammate Alonso during that season, who went on to challenge for the championship. But he showed some good pace. Then he joined FJR for a few seasons. It was 3 to be exact. Helped them to their first ever Constructors Championship in 2001. Then 2002 won another race at Monaco. Then he broke the Dark Wolf Pedersen streak at Hockenheim in what was a mental race in the 2003 season. Then he switched teams. I think he joined Guy Racing for a bit. Then meandered with a number of other teams, including FJR again. But now he is with Gojira. Never won a championship until now. Crossing the line to take his 5th win of the season, Kimi Raikkonen, and his first ever FF1M championship. Based off of his performance in the past couple of races, I'd say that was fully deserved. Got to feel for Tornado. They could have won both championships, but poor reliability at the worst possible moments has cost them fairly dearly. And what does that do for the Constructors Championship as well? 8 points for Tornado, 13 for Gojira, and I believe Gojira have taken the Constructors Championship as well by a single point. Goodness me. How about that for a championship finale? And there's the results: Raikkonen from Vettel, Grosjean, Alonso, Kubica, Button, Vernon and Perez. And unfortunately for Hulkenberg, Mitchell did not get that point in this race. Just dominated by the first 8. And they can see still only the one retirement, and that was Valtteri Bottas. And fastest lap went to Sebastian Vettel. Second fastest lap in a row. Just showing you how much pace he had over the season in the shake and bake. Possibly the 4th best car of the season. But my drive of the season, Sebastian Vettel. Not many retirements at all, just the one from Bottas, after his bit of contact with Pastor Maldonado proved terminal, stuck in the gravel trap. And we'll just get confirmation of the Drivers' Championship. But it will be Kimi Raikkonen who has won the championship by 12 points in the end, from Romain Grosjean. 111 for Raikkonen, 99 for Grosjean. Vettel 3rd in the championship for the shake and bake, so good effort from him. Verne slips down to 4th. Alonso 5th in the end, with Perez 6th. Top 6 won at least one race. And the other 2 race winners were Kubica in 8th in the championship. Nearly got Button in the end, but not quite. And the man finishing 12th in the championship, Valtteri Bottas. He won the Hungarian Grand Prix. And there's the Constructors. Gojira beat Tornado by just a single point. In the end, it only came down to a single point. Bit unfair to say that one of them has to lose, but that's the case in motor racing. Exolite take an excellent 3rd in their comeback. Shake and Bake 4th in the championship. Andrew F1 beat Mitchell to 5th in the championship. And rounding off the rest of the teams, Willows, FJR, GRM, Horizon and Pedersen. So there'll be a multitude of shake-ups, most significantly in the engine department. But the 2014 season will begin in Melbourne, and we shall see you for then.